of experience in the IT industry. He has done extensive work on IoT ecosystem, platform business models, and competitive strategy. Abilash also works closely with the product management and CTO office in building new products and strategies. He also has an excellent understanding of big data frameworks with interest in the field of IoT and location analytics. He's also filed multiple patents with the United States Patent and Trademark Office in the fields of WLAN infrastructure and security, IoT security, direction-based authentication, and edge analytics. Now moving on to the agenda, during the first 50 minutes of this session, Abilash will be taking us through the presentation, and the last 10 minutes will be the question session when we will go into a discussion mode. I will be manning the chat, and if you have any technical issues, you may ping me individually. A warm welcome once again to all the participants, and over to Abilash.
Thank you, Imelda, for the introduction. Thank you, everyone, for showing interest in joining the session amidst your busy schedule. The objective of the session is to decipher what is IoT and what are the components of the IoT landscape, what are the protocols vying to get the line share in the emerging market. This is going to be a $7 trillion market, which is really huge. It is almost like 3 times India's economy. That is the size that we are speaking about in the world of IoT. There are umpteen number of terminologies in IoT, and it is really difficult to just go out and decipher all of them and understand how they are interconnected. So the objective of this session is to introduce you to the IoT, world of IoT, where the whole world is moving towards. We are in a momentous time in the history of technology. If you can take a look at the vast expanse of the technology development, right from discovering how to make fire, to making wheels, to manufacturing machines, to computer, IoT stands as a technology development of similar lines. We would see why we are saying that, and it is of huge importance to the way technology is driving the world today. The world is going to be radically different 10 years down the line. If you look at the technology adoption cycle, it is really picking up pace. For example, phone is invented long back, and then the time it took for us, for majority of the world to get phones, it took decades. But let us say a 4G technology is getting introduced, today it's immediately reaching people across the globe. So the rate of adoption of technology is improving at a breakneck speed. And because of that, the requirement for us to observe new technologies and upskill ourselves has gone over the roof. So to keep pace with the technology development and keeping ourselves relevant, it has become a big challenge. And unless people focus on things which are developing, they would see themselves getting their knowledge and their offerings, which they do as service or product, getting commoditized really fast. So this product and technology cycle is getting shorter and shorter by the day. So we would see how IoT has rapidly developed over a period of time. Because of this rapid development, how protocols are coming together, and it is leading to standards war. We would see what briefly is a standards war, and how in different layers of IoT there are standards wars happening, because of which we call it as IoT and standards wars. So the objective is to take you to understand what are the products and technologies which are available today in the world of IoT, number one. Number two, where is it going, and what are the protocols vying for winning each layer of the OSA layer, and how the solutions will look like in the future, or in the present, or in the recent future. So once you know this, you would know, if you want to get into the world of IoT, what things you should learn, and what can be the future of this landscape of IoT. Okay, that's the high level objective of this session. Hope you would have good takeaways from the session. Okay, so Eric Schmidt He's the chairman of Alphabet, which is a parent organization of Google. He was the ex-CEO of Google from 2001 to 2011 for 10 years. So we can believe what he says. The whole strategy that they have, Google has, is built on top of this. So they are saying that Internet of Things will augment your brain, which basically means that IoT would connect to your brain, and you need not type something, put something on your mobile, uh, or speak and command something to happen. You just think for something to happen in your mind, and it will happen in the physical world. That is how IoT is going to shape this world in the future. So this is how we can decode this sentence. And Tesla, Elon Musk recently came up, a couple of days back, came up with a new company called as Neuralink, which basically connects to the neural network of human beings, and would try to decipher what we think and take that directly to the IoT world and make changes in the physical world. So, and his objective is to achieve it in 10 years time. He has very ambitious projects, as you all know, like going to Mars, and having completely automated cars, etc. And this is the way the technology is growing, and IoT is going to play a very, very important role in changing the world that we know upside down. So we have to be prepared for this and ensure that we learn this technology to keep ourselves relevant in the upcoming world. Okay, now what is IoT? IoT, in my understanding, is that connecting the physical world and making it represent itself in the virtual world or the digital world. For example, the chairs, the tables, the roads, the lampposts, whatever you see, all of them would represent themselves in the digital world or on the internet. So you can interact with these devices over the internet. For example, your AC machine, from your AC machine to a nuclear missile. All these things would be connected to the digital world. So we would see what are the upcoming applications, how they get connected, what are the protocols which are enabling it. So this is what we are going to do in today's session. To start with, let's see what is available today. So today we have something called as beacons, which support Bluetooth technology as of today, and there are location, proximity, striker, and video beacons, to name just some of them. So what they do is that they connect to a physical world asset. For example, a chair, a table, a board. Let us say in a hospital, it can connect to a heart monitoring system, and it gets connected to the access point or the IoT gateway and mentions that, hey, this device is here. So for example, a patient walks in, he has a heart complication, and he needs a heart monitor. There are, let us say, 500 beds in a hospital, and the management does not know where the heart monitor is. They have just 10 heart monitors. So in this case, with IoT solution, you can track live, real time, where these devices are. You can not only track this, you can also track where nurses with the corresponding skill sets to operate these are. You can send a message to them directly saying that, hey, there is a patient, please go and pick up this heart monitor from this room and bring it to the room number, let us say 101, where the patient will reach. So dynamically, by the time the patient reaches there, the heart monitor and the nurse reaches there. So it improves the overall logistics and the operations efficiency in the system, which would mean that they can save, let us say, 30 minutes of time in the overall process, which can be matter of life and death in these scenarios. Same can be scenario in case of manufacturing, where there are two kinds of technologies called IT and OT. IT is information technology, OT is called operational technology. So IT was always completely connected to the internet, and OT was 90% not connected to the internet. OT was typically machineries, equipments, though even if they are automated, they would be automated just among those 5 or 10 devices, but they don't connect themselves necessarily to the internet. So the protocols today are we are coming up with protocols which can enable them connect to the internet and help getting operated from the internet. Not just operating, we have predictive maintenance and other efficient methods through analytics on top of data that gets collected. So it can say that, hey, this machine is running today, and uh, in 2 days, most probably this machine will develop some fault. This has been its behavior in the past. Basically, this nut has a mean time between failure of 2 years, and it has been 1 year, 300 days now, or 353 days now. Maybe in 2-3 days time it'll develop a fault. Most probably it might happen. I already see symptoms of it in the output. And then we can do a preventive maintenance of changing that particular nut or bolt and ensuring that the system works fine in the lifetime. That way we can proactively avoid downtimes happening in the manufacturing sector. It's a very simple example, but this is something which is very important. Um, so the German government actually is coming up with this new initiative called Industry 4.0, which is transforming the world in industries. So we would see more about that in the later part. Then in the home segment, we can see that already Google has something called as Google Home. Amazon has Alexa. So these devices are more like a IoT gateway, and they interconnect with all the devices at home. For example, you have a flight tomorrow morning. So this device will automatically access your calendar, find out that you have a flight at 7 a.m. in the morning. So the time that you have between your house to the airport would be 2 hours. Check-in time is 1 hour, so 3 hours. And then you will have to wake up and get ready, which is 1 more hour. So 4 hours before your flight, it will wake you up. And the way it will wake you up, it would be very different. It will switch on the lights slowly. The lights will have multiple hues. So it would first start with like the rising sun with the orange color. Then it will slowly become white. It will start playing music, melodious music, to ensure that when you wake up, you have a pleasant experience. And it would do a voice announcement saying that you have a flight at this time. If you get ready, you will be able to reach there. And it will switch on your geyser, it will switch on your coffee machine, and ensure that you get ready and it's a pleasant experience for you. So this is just an example of how smart homes can be. Then for example, smart cities, you have something called one of the examples is smart parking, where there would be smart parking sensors in the parking lots, and this would connect over, let us say, Bluetooth or Zigbee to the access point or the IoT gateway which is next to it. And then this would send an update directly to the cloud, which would monitor what is happening. So typically downtown, how much time it would take to find a good parking lot near the shopping mall that you want to shop. Typically the whole city wants to shop there. So how do you reserve that slot? Is the question, and this will enable you can reserve it anytime you want, you can cancel it anytime you want, and you can go and park. So this whole ecosystem helps in achieving this and makes buying a very smooth experience. You can even connect with the shopping mall, and shopping mall, you can say that I'm coming to the shopping mall can reserve you a better parking lot which is in its vicinity. And it can even offer discounts for the same. So all these things can happen. And retail analytics is one of the biggest IoT analytics systems which are currently operational. It's already operational, and even Aruba is doing it now big time. Okay, so these are solutions which are available as of today, and we are not even speaking about future or even the near future. So why is it important? How big can it get? We are speaking about minor optimizations. The beauty of the whole thing is that there are multiple other technologies which are simultaneously emerging, and when we connect all these together, the impact can be mind-blowing. One is virtual reality. So with IoT plus virtual reality, you can see what would happen in the future, in the near future. For example, cars are interconnected. So when you walk on the road, even if there is a turning which you cannot see, um, the VR can tell you that, hey, there is a car coming at 100 kilometers per hour, which would be crossing this road at next 3 seconds, so don't cross the road. So with virtual reality plus IoT, it can be a complete game changer. Next is big data. Big data has already been transforming a lot of industries, and IoT is basically an enabler to collect data. So IoT is basically a gold mine on top of which big data will run and build all the jewelries. So uh, IoT gives you the data, and big data processes the data and gives you intelligent insights out of it. So that is a combination of these two and three itself is humongous. Add on to this blockchain. Blockchain is a distributed ledger which is very secure. It is like having different copies on different parts of the ledger across the globe, so that nobody can fake it, because it can be called as a trust protocol, because the same information would be validated with different machines across the globe, and it is nearly impossible to forge it. That is the idea of blockchain. And on top of blockchain is built Bitcoin, which is radically transforming the financial sector. Because no more, it can just make the central banks irrelevant, because they no more publish M0, or they no more need to print the money and say that, hey, in the name of God, we are giving this money, and then we promise that this will do blah blah blah. That is no more required, because all of this, it will be a universal currency, and it will be totally secure. So that's the power of Bitcoin, which is already revolutionizing the financial sector. Now this will get into the IoT world, which basically means that every transaction which happens, for example, people cannot deny that they didn't go to a place, because it will get captured, and it would be there in the ledger across the globe. So right from legality, security, authentication, everything, all the information captured would be secured, and it would be distributed across the globe, so that everything becomes trustworthy. So everything is captured, everything is analyzed, everything is made trustworthy, which makes a very beautiful environment for building new businesses, and it is really stable. It addresses a lot of security concerns, and that's the beauty of blockchain plus IoT. Next is the low power WAN. Now all these Internet of Things devices are low power devices. They are not high power. Typically they would run maximum of 200 milliamp hour, typically the battery size of your mobile, but they have to sustain 2 to 3 year periods. For that, the transmission power has to be very minimal. That requires a new set of protocols, and that's where the next portion of new protocols which are coming up we would concentrate on. One of the most interesting areas is the low power WAN. So there would be one cellular tower, kind of a tower, and millions of devices can connect to it. So couple of contenders for it are called Sigfox and LoRa. We will look into other competitors and other protocols which are coming up. Basically these would be like cellular towers, but some 1 million devices can connect to one single base station, and we would look into that. So when these technologies come together, they can change the world, and that is what is going to happen in the next 2 to 5 years. So okay, we saw the big picture. Now how does IoT work? What are the layers in IoT? What are the components of IoT? Let's look into it. So there would be end devices like a parking sensor. There would be an operating system on that, let us say a VxWorks, very minimal operating system. It will have a connectivity, let us say based on 802.15.4 protocol. On top of it, there will be a application upper layer protocol like Zigbee Smart Energy. So this would get connected to the access point or IoT or an IoT gateway through the same protocol Zigbee, and this would feed on the information to the cloud. Let us say in this case the customer has bought IBM Lumix, and the analytics is done, IoT analytics is done through IBM Watson. Now, all this information of where parking slots are, where the cars would go, and which parking slot to park on, all this information would be decided by IBM Watson based on information flow that happens from the sensor till the cloud. And the information would be passed on to the mobile in the mobile app. So this is one simple example which is working as of now, for example, in the city of Sydney and Adelaide, and in couple of other cities, I think in Los Angeles and in a couple of other cities. And this is picking up big time because there is huge revenue for city corporations in this. Okay, so next is how is the IoT revenue model gonna be? So IoT is not just devices, end devices and modules. 18% of the revenue of the $7 trillion revenue is gonna go to connectivity and security. 22% of it will be going to platform and analytics. So these are really vital for the networking and communication companies, and this is where the cream of the profit is, because in hardware there is not much of profit. Applications, it's sort of commoditized. Professional services is more like on-field services where you do the installation, etc. So the cream of the revenue would be coming from connectivity, security, platform and analytics. And these are the areas where specialized skill sets are required. Of course, in application as well as professional services, you would require specialized capabilities, but the profit margins are going to be really high in these four. So when a company builds a product, how should they position the product? How should they structure their strategy for getting into the IoT world? There are a lot of things they have to get it right to get a product successfully. First is that they should have the right choice of the physical and the Mac layer. Second is that their application framework has to be right, and they should have a very good platform and analytics solution to back up their IoT offerings, because without analytics, IoT is like sort of useless. Then you need to have right ecosystem partners, because it's going to be a collaboration of multiple devices to achieve what objective you want to get. So the ecosystem of partners is super important in IoT. And then they have to join the right consortiums, because a lot of things are happening around IoT, and it is very important that we be with the winning horse. Nobody wants to be on the losing side. So it has to be the right consortium, right strategy, and we have to target the right segment. There are different segments. For example, if people just go and chase some weird protocol like how to find out where your cat is hiding, it may be like it may be a fantasy, but amount of revenue a company can make out of it can be minimal. So we have to identify the right target segment which has valid business cases and do it. Then it can be capturing the maximum value chain. Now it is very tricky because you may be stepping over on your partners. So you have to choose the right battlefield, and you have to identify your right competitors and the right customers. This is vital, else you will do a harakiri of killing the golden goose. Then the most important is the right timing, ensuring that we launch the product at the right time in the right market. So these are important. Relevance or parallel to this is called in strategy, called as a beachhead strategy, which was done by the NATO forces during the Second World War. So it's called the D-Day, and on the Normandy beach, they together went, and all the NATO forces went together and attacked and captured the entire beach stretch and ensured that they have absolute hold on this beach stretch. And then Germans were pretty behind. They never thought that this would be attacked, and from there on, Second World War came to a very soon end. So running the strategy of a focus strategy on a specific market segment with the right use cases at the right time is super critical to win the IoT war. Now that we have got a background, let's look into the standards which are competing in the multiple layers of IoT to win the standards war. First, on the physical and the Mac layer, followed by the application layer, Then we would look into the platforms and analytics, and at last we would look into the operating system. First with the PHY and the MAC layer. PHY and MAC layer has two components. The first one is on local area network. The second one is on wide area network. In the local area network, there are three competing protocols. One is 802.15.4, one is Bluetooth or 15.1, the third one is 802.11. Now, all these protocols have been there for quite some time, and all of them have different target markets till some time back. With IoT, everybody, the companies which have adopted these technologies, all of them want a pie of share in the IoT market. So they have started stepping over each other's foot. So 15.4 Zigbee is trying to expand itself and ensure that it wins over the home market, home IoT segment. Bluetooth is trying to do the same. Now the competition part of it is coming because Zigbee is trying to increase its range, reduce its power consumption. Bluetooth, on the other hand, is trying to increase its number of clients which can connect simultaneously and increase its data rate. So the differentiation which was there between these protocols, which are clearly segmented into multiple compartments, now they are stepping on each other. And the third one is wireless LAN, which has super high power requirements. Now they are coming up with 11AH protocol, which would cut down on the power requirements drastically. So virtually all of them are competing on the same piece of the pie. Now this becomes a big problem. So this is called as a standards war, because three standards trying to compete for one pie in the IoT world. So we have this evolution train where we can see that Zigbee has moved on to 3.0, which is specifically meant for IoT. Similarly, Bluetooth has moved to 5.0, which is also meant for IoT. And 802.11 has gone to 802.11AH, which is called as a Halo. That is also focused on IoT. Now, since all these three protocols are competing on IoT, it will be interesting to see who will win this battle and who will get the major piece of pie. Will it be a winner-take-all market, or it will be oligopoly or monopoly? Only time would tell as what would happen. Now, let's peel the onions further. Now, what is really happening is that given that you have a 2000 milliamp hour battery with you, how much time will a Zigbee device stay up? How much time will a BLE device stay up and Wi-Fi device stay up? So as of today, we all know that when we charge our mobile phones, typically 200 milliamps, the charge stays not for more than 1 day, and typically the connection is through Wi-Fi. So it stays not more than a day. BLE, as of today, if it is pure BLE, then it would stay up for 730 days. And the sensors are typically going to be BLE only with small CPU. So that's gonna be like 2 years. Zigbee, as of now, is power hungry. It'll take, it'll eat it up all in 4.5 days. Now this is not suitable for Wi-Fi. So Zigbee came up with something called as Zigbee Green Power, which can last up to 800 days. Now this is a threat to BLE. So BLE went ahead and increased its data rate from 1 Mbps to 2 Mbps, while Zigbee can only provide 0.25 Mbps or 250 kbps. And it quadrupled the distance from 15 meters to 60 meters. So Zigbee fell back, and Bluetooth sort of became the de facto, is becoming the de facto standard. 802.11 is still behind, though in the specifications it looks really good and it is on top. It is 802.11AH is expected not before 2019. Even it is a very optimistic estimate. So given this background, Bluetooth is expected to win this war, and it is already on its way there. So this is the PHY and the MAC layer. So the next is on the WAN part. There are a couple of strong protocols which is called LoRa and Sigfox. There is one more protocol called N-Wave or narrowband wave IoT. So these are three competing protocols. So these are like cellular towers, which are base stations, which will have a radius of, let us say, in case of LoRa, it would be 15 to 45 kilometers, and millions of IoT devices in this area can get connected to these devices. For example, smart cities, all the sensors which are implemented by the government across the city can get connected to, let us say, 5 or 10 such base stations. Similarly, Sigfox, it can have a radius of 50 kilometers in rural areas and 10 kilometers in urban areas, typically because it's a concrete jungle, and it would take a lot of energy to penetrate it. So the radius is cut down. Now, the primary challenge is from a band perspective. So there is a constraint on the bandwidth, free spectrum available. So some of them work in the sub-gigahertz range, majority of them, other than few of them which are not anyways competing. So most of them are in the sub-gigahertz range, and a different region have challenges. So this initially LoRa and Sigfox came up in Europe, and they are working in the 800, 900 free spaces in Europe. So this is not a free space in US. So US is in trouble now for implementing these technologies, but work is on with FCC to free up some of these channels and implement the same technology in US as well. Then it is followed by the data rates. So LoRa is typically 0.3 to 50 kbps, and Sigfox is just 100 bits per second. Then is this a standard? So LoRa WAN is a standard, while LoRa is not. LoRa basically means long range, and it has a separate spread spectrum technology based on chip rates. Sigfox, on the other hand, is sort of inexpensive on the sensor to the base station. So overall, when you look at it, LoRa is slightly favored more than Sigfox. So there is an interesting war going on between these products, and it will take some more time to get a clear picture of who is winning. Then we move on to the next battle, which is in the space of application. Now, given that the protocols are power hungry as of today, and these are meant for devices like laptops which are connected all the time with a power card, and access points which are connected all the time to a PoE source. The protocols were never meant to be energy efficient, for example HTTP or TCP for that matter. Now with IoT, these have just a battery, and the battery has to last for 2 years. So that's a long time. So there is no way other than optimizing the applications which are running on these devices. So to optimize these applications, we can't use the existing applications, and new applications have to be written. So there is a huge competition for building these applications. For example, HTTP would no more be relevant in the IoT world. A new application has to be rewritten in place of HTTP in the IoT world. So think of the importance. If a company does not support this standard, or it is lying behind in understanding this technology or learning this technology, they cannot participate in the IoT world, and other markets will get commoditized, and their profits should go down, and the company can sink. So that is the importance of companies understanding the IoT world. So when you look at the existing alternatives, Wi-Fi is layer 2. There is nothing on top of it as an application. Bluetooth low energy, which is Bluetooth 4.0 and 5.0. They have extensibles on top of it, for example, smart power, etc., which can be implemented. Similarly, Zigbee also has such protocol stacks, but these are not. These are proprietary, and they are not open for other applications. So we need an application which is common across all layer 2, layer 3 layers. For example, Google is coming up with something called Thread. So that requires something as application on top of it. Now, what is the solution for all of this? There are multiple standards which are competing. These are called constrained applications, and there is a protocol called COAP, which is basically called constrained application. So these would run on top of UDP and DTLS, and it would capture the information of IoT. IoT devices typically require minimal information to be sent. For example, the telemetry data, that is the temperature, pressure, lighting, etc., and the ambience information. So these information would be sent across the cloud, and the protocol has to cater to this requirement of being very lean on energy requirements and able to capture these information about the device and the ambience information. So who are the competitors here? Zigbee has come up with protocols. Currently, Zigbee has come up with Zigbee 3.0. OCF, Open Connectivity Foundation, which was earlier called OIC, is a very strong competitor and contender in this area. Allseen is a consortium which was started by Qualcomm. A lot of people joined there, but what happened was midway through this journey, Allseen saw that it doesn't make much sense, and Qualcomm went and joined OCF. And because of that, other players are now forced to move to OCF because the leader itself has joined OCF, jumped ships. So OCF is going through a snowball effect, and multiple people are latching onto it. So this is how adoption would trigger the end of a standard war, and this is what is happening now. We was started by Google, and irrespective of Google has a lot of money, it is not a necessary condition for winning a standard war. So Google has a is also competing in the application world and the layer 1, layer 2 world. They have a protocol called Thread. Now they cannot choose both of them, because the adoption would be less. So Google is betting on Thread rather than betting on Weave, and it is giving up Weave, and it is joining probably OCF. Zigbee has also announced plugin into OCF. So all of these protocols are joining hands with OCF. One of the other major protocols which is not joining it is from a consortium called Oasis, and they have a protocol called MQTT Smart Networks. Now this is sort of a competitor between OCF, but looking at things, it is just a matter of time that OCF will emerge as a winner of the standard war in this layer. Now, why is OCF or COAP winning this war? Because it has the granularity of control, and the consortium is pretty open about being used by everybody in the world. So it has a good discovery mechanism. For example, discovery in the LAN, for example, it can identify not just the device or the physical world equivalent, but also it can categorize into a good common resource model. So it has a good classification of furniture, and inside furniture it has chairs, tables, boards, etc. And the device can have a similar configuration. It will be more like a MIB structure, and it will get mapped, and it can have a clear common resource model for majority of things in the physical world. Then it has good messaging methods where it can communicate something to a chair. For example, reduce the height of the chair. You can communicate that over IoT network, and chair can go down or up based on whatever you want. Then similarly, you can adjust the lighting. For example, you are in a meeting room, you want to reduce the light, or you want to play a music and ensure that the light is in sync with the music. All these things you can do. And then you can do device management, because basically you can control what devices should connect into the network. You can provision certificates and authentication for these IoT devices, because security is a major challenge. And then you can do ID and addressing for these devices, and you can derive roles for the security of the network, do key management for these over the IoT network with the COAP protocol. Because of all these granular facilities which are available, this is winning the battle. Now this is a structure how the communication would take place. Phone supports HTTP. It will go and communicate with the COAP gateway, which would be, let us say, an access point, and then it will translate HTTP protocol into COAP and then communicate to the COAP device, which is basically a sensor. And then it would take an action, send a response back to the mobile. So that way, if you want to adjust the height of the chair, you can do that on your mobile, and it will reflect in the physical world. So this way it gets plugged in to all the protocols which are available in today's world, and this is being seen as a major push towards COAP and the faster adoption of IoT in the world today. Then the third is the battle between cloud analytics and edge analytics. Cloud analytics is huge. All the information is put back onto the cloud, whatever. So IoT is nothing but data generator. It every second it generates data about the entire physical world and puts it to the internet. Now, the internet has the capability to analyze the data and come up with intelligent solutions for a given scenario. For example, the medical example that we saw. For example, an ambulance is coming on its way carrying a heart patient. It can give signals to the signal post, say that clear this route so that this ambulance can reach the hospital on time. So that is the power of IoT, and all these things happen as a collaboration between the heart rate monitors in the ambulance, between the ambulance, and from ambulance to the satellite, satellite to the cloud, and cloud to the traffic management system, to the signals on the stretch in which the ambulance is scheduled to go. So all these things can be clubbed together, and people are today trying to implement it, and it will be there in short time. And similarly, devices can speak with each other. Cars, while they are on the way, they can speak with each other, and it can take intelligent decisions on which direction they should turn. Let us say a car and a bike are going pretty close, and they know that they are going to take a right turn. One guy is going to take a right and a left turn, other guy is going to take a left turn. It would ensure that the timing is proper so that they can turn at the right time. If they are on the incorrect lanes, turning the other way can cause a collision. So the timing can be managed through the information that this is the destination, this is how they have to go, and this would be shared between these vehicles, and right decision would be taken when they should turn. So all these things can happen over the cloud, but can cloud cater to all this information? Will there be a time constraint? Will there be a network constraint? Or are there simple challenges which can be handled lower down the strata? So the solution is edge analytics, because there are millions of devices in the physical world, and it does not make sense to send all this data over to the cloud. It would choke the bandwidth first. Second, it would require humongous amount of storage capacity on the cloud. Third, it would require huge CPUs to process all this information and come up with intelligent analytics. So the filtering of this information can be done at the edge, or simple decisions can be taken at the edge while making use of the cloud for complex decisions. So companies are trying to do it, and network companies are at the forefront for edge analytics. Of course, we have the big four in case of cloud analytics, which are Amazon, IBM, Microsoft, and Google is trying to be there. GE predicts, etc. So this is on the analytics part of it. Then the OS part of it. We all know the importance of Android and iOS, how important role plays the operating system. So in case of IoT world, there are at least four competing operating systems. There are 20 plus operating systems currently, but most of them will die out. One of the most promising is by ARM. ARM is the hardware design licensing company for the mobile world. It is almost like 85% of the mobile market is ruled by ARM. Now they are enveloping into the operating system. Now Google is scared. Google is coming up with its own operating system called Brillo for the IoT world. Windows already lost the mobile world war, and now it is desperate to ensure that it does not lose the IoT war at least. So it has come up with IoT operating system as well. There are new players in the market like PXWorks, RIoT, etc., who are coming up with very impressive operating systems. So time would only say who would win, but as of now, ARM is leading. So given this background, these are the wars which are taking place at different layers. Analytics is going to be very important, and that's going to be the intelligent part of the data mining which happens with IoT. So IoT analytics can be defined into multiple layers. For example, smart buildings, supply chain, factory, predictive maintenance, as we discussed earlier, smart healthcare, smart universities, behavior analytics for public-facing enterprise, a smart city, smart lighting, metering, transports, effective security management, enabling law enforcement to ensure that they can do things better, etc. So all of this start with the basic premise of utility analytics, which basically is analytics for connectivity, lighting, electricity, wayfinding, water management, temperature. All these are building. First, buildings would get the analytics capabilities. All the utilities will have analytics. Then it will go to smart retail, where basically if you buy a light blue T-shirt, it would say that there is a dark blue trouser which is available for 20% discount, and this matches this really well, and you have already bought this brand last time when you were shopping. Would you like to buy it? And if you want to buy it, I can take you there to that particular trouser. And then customer has all the reasons to buy it. So that is smart retail. Predictive maintenance we saw earlier in the factory scenario. Similarly, we have something like smart public-facing enterprises. For example, museums, right? Where you have audios where you go and then you click okay, next, and then whenever you are standing in front of a number, you go and press that number to hear it. It is basically troublesome. So once you have this location-based intelligence, when you go and stand in front of a particular monument, it will automatically play the music in your play the description on your mobile or on your headset, directly stream it. Similarly, there is a lot of use cases for smart city. Indian government, in fact, has come up with some 81 requirements for smart city regarding analytics, right from effective garbage management to law enforcement across the city. So this requires a lot of effort, and there is a lot of revenue to be made in IoT analytics. Next is some of the use cases which I felt are interesting. One is like smart city, smart lamppost. Basically, lampposts are going to be the beacon of the digital world in smart cities. So it would have the access points to which people can connect. It would know who is standing where and what is his requirement. So there will be smart hoardings where, based on the information collected through the smart lamppost, it would present customized advertisements for the user, which people can look at and then get benefited. There would be cameras which would stream data directly, and it can do crowd management, theft management, law and order establishment, etc. Real time. It can monitor traffic. It can monitor pollution on the air, guide traffic accordingly so that air pollution is maintained across the city. It can also divert traffic in a way which is the requirement. Either it can be for health issues, or as we saw in case of healthcare, ambulance, or in case of VIPs traveling, etc. So there is a lot of use cases. Similarly, the smart parking solutions will also get connected to the lamppost. So all these technology devices or IoT devices would be stationed on the lamppost, and it will be directly connected to the internet. So the use cases for a lamppost are huge. Just some of them displayed there. Similarly, smart, we are just running short of time, just have 10 minutes, so I'll just run through some of the use cases. Smart garbage collection. Dustbin can say that, hey, I'm running full, and then send a message to the corporation saying that please come and collect the dustbin because I'm full. So that this can cut down on the unnecessary trips where bins are empty and the garbage collection vehicle goes there, and similarly avoid places where there is excess of garbage which is leaking onto the streets. Similarly, smart healthcare, we saw a couple of options there. So this gets connected to the unified control center for the city, and city can be a far better place to live with all these control systems. Similarly, on transportation, there can be fleet management system. Okay, basically based on the type of travel people want to make and destination they want to go, and depending upon the demand in a particular bus stand, the entire fleet of buses can be reconfigured dynamically so that there is no need for fixed schedule of buses. Buses can dynamically change the routes based on the demands on the street. These can be done real time, and people are working on this now. Similarly, smart lighting, why should the lamppost be glowing throughout the night when there is nobody walking on the streets? It can turn itself off. So a lot of things like this can be possible. Similarly, efficient garbage collection, crowd management, video and theft analytics. Industry 4.0 is a huge initiative. A lot of companies are involved, a lot of countries are involved. In fact, Germany is driving this initiative big time. A lot of protocols are getting standardized. For example, intelligent supply chain management, intelligent quality control, predictive maintenance, security and safety of employees. All these things can be done through IoT and Industry 4.0. A lot of companies, for example, Bosch, GE, Fujitsu, IBM, Intel, Cisco, HPE, all of them are already participating in it. There are 3 or 4 consortiums for the same, and it can drastically cut down on wastages in industries because in the manufacturing sector, resources are too critical. Competition is on cost. Cutting down cost is vital for the survival of the organization. It has been proved that it can reduce, for example, drilling machines connecting to Internet of Things reduces wastage by 10%, reduces failure cost by 10%, and the benefits are huge. Similarly, things are automated. This is not just used in very small scale technology, it's even already implemented in things like automobiles and aeronautics, even flight building flights, a tightening, a riveting tool or a tightening tool based on the location of the tool and where they are working. The configurations can be dynamically pushed from the cloud to these tools, and they can correspondingly do with a certain pre-configured, let us say, tightness in a specific place where a flight is getting constructed. So these are some of the applications which are already available in the world today, and the potentials are immense, and this gives all of us an opportunity to build our careers and futures on top of it. This can be a difference between where we are and where we dream to be. Thank you.
Thanks, Abilash. Team, we shall now open the forum for questions. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type it in the chat window. We can pick it up one by one and answer the same. Team, any questions? So Sachin says that was an amazing session, very informative as well. Thanks, Sachin. Okay, so there's a question as well. Do you think that this all could be accomplished using IPv4 when IPv4 is already about to be finished?
Yeah, that's a good question. So IPv4 is out. Typically, the protocol that would be used is 6LoWPAN. That is the protocol which is being used in majority of the IoT applications and protocol stack.
Thanks, Abilash. And your views on edge analytics, if you can just give us a brief two-liner on that.
Yeah, edge analytics is a very interesting field. I have applied for a couple of patents in that. So let us say you have the number of sensors can be huge, right? For example, in a meeting room, there can be like some 10 or 20 or telemetry data. For example, let us take a very simple example of vegetable vendor. Okay, there is a vegetable vendor, let us say some Target or let us say Big Bazaar. Now, the temperature of all these vegetables are super important because it has to be fresh. While it is on the transit, Big Bazaar wants to monitor that the temperature of the vegetables are maintained at a particular level and it does not exceed that because it will basically get spoiled. And this will be the contract between the transporter and Big Bazaar. Now, Big Bazaar would enforce that these guys put telemetry sensors on the vans and the vegetable bags so that the temperature is monitored. And all this goes real time to the cloud. Now, let us say there are like 50 boxes, all of them are in a single van, and all of them are monitored. Uh, there is no need to send the temperature of all the 50 boxes to the cloud. I'll just occupy the space memory on the cloud. So a better way to do is to do the analytics first at the van itself. Let us say there will be an IoT gateway. So the IoT gateway itself will do the basic first time analytics, ensure that no repetitive data would go to the cloud, and only when there is a change it would send it to the cloud. That would cut down almost 99.9% of the transmission. That would save a lot of space on the cloud, and a lot of space consequently means that it is lesser CPU required for the analytics processing of the data. So that can save millions of dollars for, we are just speaking about one truck, and it would send information every 5 seconds. That would be millions of updates to the cloud. So if you are speaking about millions of, so by 2020 there are going to be 20 billion IoT devices, which is like 3 times the population of the world today. So many devices sending update every 5 seconds will be humongous. So edge analytics would cut this down to a level which can be processed by cloud. So edge and cloud are partners in this process, and that's going to be very interesting.
Thanks, Abilash. That was a real good example. We have another question from Sachin. What would be the security measures taken to prevent the misuse of personal data that would be shared to a big single database on the cloud?
Yeah, security, there are a lot of security concerns. Now just the protocols are just getting stable. The standard war is on. So basically the protocol which is secure enough only can win this war. And people are trying to build the security in all the layers. For example, there was one cartoon picture which I saw. So one guy is stuck in house. Basically, his house is completely IoT enabled. He's in the house. Somebody hacks it. Now he locks his door, rises the temperature to, let us say, 50 degrees Celsius, closes his microwave oven, closes his fridge. Basically, this guy, and then he stops his water cooler. So this guy is basically stuck, and he's sort of burning inside. He cannot do anything, and he cannot go out. His phone is disconnected. His Wi-Fi is down. He cannot communicate with anyone. Basically, a person can be easily killed inside the house if security measures are not in place. So that is the downside if security is not implemented properly. For example, another example can be in the self-driving cars. If somebody can hack into the car and you are going at 200 kilometers per hour on the national highway, somebody can apply the brakes remotely, and God forbid what will happen to that guy. So these are the implications which can happen if security is not in place, and the repercussions can be dangerous. For example, there was one security issue which was mentioned about Tesla, and the share price fell by like 10%, which will be like wiping out of couple of $1 billion from the assets of the company. So yeah, so security is a big concern, and everybody is focusing on it.
Thanks, Abilash. And so there's also a continuation question. So do you think that if this goes the same way as you have explained, this would be actually tracking every human being in the world without their permission and can be easily misused if this goes to wrong hands, despite of having all security measures?
Yeah, so we
Yes.
had the same concern when we had smart cards. So yeah, technology is a double-edged sword.
Okay. Next one. What are the skills do you think would help us scale up in the IoT world? So I think she's asking more about how we can upskill ourselves, what are the languages we can learn, etc.
Yeah, so you will have to first choose which area you want to go into. For example, networking, maybe you will have to learn more about Bluetooth 5.0 or Zigbee or 802.11ah or AX. You have to choose an area. Let us say this is for networking. You will have to understand all this. If you want to get into application, you will have to understand, let us say COAP, JSON, and other stuff. If you want to get into analytics, you will have to learn R, Scala, Hadoop, etc. So you'll have to first choose a field, and once you choose a field, there are a lot of options to look into, and that's where standards bar makes a lot of sense, because you have to identify the winning hours and put your efforts on that, else all your efforts will go for a toss.
Thanks, Abilash. That's quite a lot. And we also have a question about Aruba in the IoT market. So some insights on that.
Yeah, Aruba is actually focusing on intelligent edge. We are the market leaders in the edge segment. Cisco is sort of scared of us at this point because we have been consistently gaining market share, and Cisco is losing market share, though we are at 20 and they are at 40. But in other segments, they are at 60 and 70, for example, switching and routing. But this is something difficult for them to crack. And with HP's financial cloud backing us, and HP's servers and storage systems in place, we are really looking at the IoT world to move forward in a big way. There are a lot of efforts going on. So yeah, keep looking forward.
Thanks, Abilash, and all the best to Aruba on this. We have one last question I think we should take from Karthik. I have a question. You briefly touched upon Neuralink during the introduction. My thoughts around that is a Neuralink more of an AI company than an IoT company?
Yeah, so let us say they understand from the neurons which neurons are firing and what that guy is thinking. So that's what that company wants to do. But what will they do with that information without IoT? So they have to connect with the IoT world, and then let us say you are sitting in the room, you feel that the temperature is high. So you just think that, okay, if it is 18 degrees Celsius, then it will be good. Now, with this information, without IoT, you cannot do anything. You will have to connect to the AC and then air condition and say that reduce the temperature and bring it to 18 degrees Celsius. So basically, it is an enabler for the IoT world. That's how I see it.
Thanks, Abilash, and the team. It's about time. So you believe IoT will make jobs in support to nil in the near future? Peggy has a question.
It's the same question when tractors were invented. So I think everybody has to upskill themselves.
True, Abilash. Thank you. And team, so we'll be closing the session right now. And on behalf of CSS Corp and the Learning and Development team, I would like to thank Abilash for a very informative and insightful session. Appreciate Aruba Networks for extending support for this knowledge sharing session. We value your partnership, and thanks, Abilash. It was great having you on our CSS Corp Virtual University.
Thank you. It was my pleasure answering the questions. There were really some good questions, considering that people are new or they have great potential to learn this field, and this is the future. And I think looking forward, whatever people have questions on, feel free to drop an email to me. You can get my email address from Imelda. Let me know. I'll be more than happy to answer you. Thank you. Have a great time.
Thanks, Abilash. Appreciate that. Team, thank you, and thanks for joining the session, and you all have a good evening and a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.